Welcome to the Do Good Work podcast. Today we are talking to Edwin Dearborn. Edwin has been featured in Entrepreneur, Social Media Today, the Orange County Register, and other national media outlets. And he is a chief marketing officer, coach, VP, or fractional CMO to support brands to grow online and to grow their business. So he was formally educated in marketing and public relations in Hollywood, California in the 1990s. And since then, he's coached thousands of CEOs and business leaders in the US and Europe. He's the author of three books. One is upcoming, and his goal and his mission is to help businesses grow and remain profitable. And that's a key component there as well. I think you'll really enjoy this conversation because not only do we dive into a strategy that's helped B2B service company grow by 500% in a year, and 500% is that's a percentage wise in terms of how much they're growing. So it's a 5x growth rate. I'd like for you to envision what that would look like in your company. And I'd like for you to identify these principles. So we break it down into bit by bit detail. And Edwin adds a ton of value just to share the exact steps that his client took that you can actually just literally take and implement. That's beautiful here. And we also talk about another strategy, which I really found fascinating around nano and micro influencers. This even has me looking at my own lists and my own marketing mix of who is a nano influencer, how can we create a relationship and continue to grow together. And you'll dive into more detail in that in this episode, but I believe that this is a very valuable one. It's a little bit longer, but I would definitely encourage you to listen to it on 2x speed. I do sound better on 2x speed, but also Edwin does share a lot of value. So I would highly recommend repeating about minutes, I believe minute 15 and onward. Just repeat that over and over to listen to the strategy. I break it down as well. But other than that, here is our conversation with Edwin. I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, do good work. Edwin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Edwin, I appreciate you being on. And I know that within the overall landscape of marketing, it can get not only overwhelming, but very niche down, very macro, 30,000 foot view. I'd like to get kind of like your state of the union 2021 as a CMO coach, VP supports. Where are we? What's going on right now?
I think when there's a lot of craziness going in the world, whether it be lockdowns or the germ going around or government mandates and all the other fear and all that other stuff, I think it's important that we recognize core principles, because that's really the foundation of everything that we do in life is our core principles, whether it be a marriage, a business, raising a family. You have core principles. And in business development and business growth, and one of the things that I offer on my website is what I consider are the 10 principles of business growth. And they can download what those 10 principles are for free at Branded Shareables. There's a link called Free Stuff, and they can go to my free stuff, and that's one of them. So I'll tell you about the first one that I find is one of the major mistakes made by businesses, and that is the money is in the list. The money is in the list. Most people don't work on building a list, let alone keeping their list and keeping that list engaged. And when I say list, I mean your followers on social media and your email list.
I would even go as far as arguing that the email list is more valuable than the followers on social media, because you don't own the algorithm, you don't own their stuff. Everything is on the actual email list. And before we dive into that, and we have people who are either in traditional business, real estate, door knocking, doing things and getting people on their list. We also have direct response marketers. We have business owners who may understand marketing principles. So I kind of want to make this all encompassing when we're talking about a list, but in essence, a list is someone that you have given them and they have given you permission. You've given them value and they're giving you permission to market to them. And I think that's a key distinction. This isn't us just to download a 30,000, 300,000 email list and just spam it. This is about value, permission to market, keeping that list in a CRM or whatever database tool you use, but protecting it. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the good point and good differentiation. I even go beyond not just permission to market, but permission to engage and educate. Because if you really take a look at what marketing, the best marketing is when you involve them in understanding something. If I can share, if I just say, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, after a while, I'm just going to get a bunch of opt-outs.
Yep.
I become annoying, I become a nuisance. But if I say, hey, I came across this discovery, or I interviewed this expert who's got incredible insights, or I spotted this trend, and I wanted to share it with you. When you share valuable knowledge and insights and actionable things, people now they're looking forward to your email, right? Now, of course, somewhere in that email or at the bottom or every 10th email, you can go, hey, by the way, I happen to sell blah, blah, blah. And if you need that, let me know. They're going to be okay with that if 90% of the time it's information, value, even humor, right? Somehow you're stimulating their sensory perceptions or their cognitive abilities or their heart. You're touching their heart.
Infotainment.
Yeah, entertainment. It could be infotainment, branded entertainment. It doesn't matter what we want to call it, but the guy's looking forward to my stuff. That's all I want. He's like, Edwin's probably got some good stuff here because I know he doesn't try to sell me all the time and he's trying to offer value. I think that is the key, is building a list. And so few businesses, A, see the value of having a list, B, don't have a list, and C, when you ask them what their strategy is to grow and engage their list, it's kind of like, right? It's just, I call referral marketing the biggest blind spot in business. Everybody loves a referral. If I called you up right now, Raul, and I said, I've got a high quality referral for you, what would you say? No?
All day, every day. Come on through.
Every day. And that's true with realtors, mortgage brokers. I could call anybody, I could Google any profession in my city, and I could call them up and go, I've got a hot referral for you. And everybody gets excited. But when you ask them, can I see your written proactive strategy to increase referrals? They don't have that.
So let's dive into that. And I think that because we're moving from permission to market, and then I love how you mentioned permission to engage and educate. And I want to talk a little bit more about that permission and how that looks like in real life. But then now we're moving there to beyond on permission to ask for new business or referrals.
Yeah.
So let's first hit on, what does the permission look like to provide value, to educate? And then how do we transition that for permission to, or even just to segment and asking for those referrals, or not asking? I know there's the reverse ask. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think the first point becomes the second point, and I'll get into that, because you become referable. And I tell people, to get referrals, are you referable? Are you worth remembering? So how do I become memorable? How do I become the obvious choice when they run into the situation? So if somebody goes, man, if I could just find some marketing guy that knew how to develop a strategy, they're like, oh, I know a guy. I want to be on the top of their mind when they run into that referring opportunity. So I've got to work it backwards. I've got to reverse engineer that process psychologically. Well, what would make me stand out in their mind to make me referable? So there's a couple things that I found, and I want to make it simple, not because people are simple, but I believe there's a power in simplicity. Again, fundamentals. Do you have your fundamentals in? So I'll give you one example that worked out really, really well for a bookkeeping company that I've been working with for about 1.5 years. We've increased her revenue. You ready for this? 500%.
Oh, wow.
In 1.5 years.
This is during this time.
During this time.
There you go. I love it. Good job.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you what we did. So I assessed her situation. And I said, okay, how many connections do you have on LinkedIn? She goes, oh, about 300. And this is after being on LinkedIn for, years.
Mhm.
I said, okay, what do you do with LinkedIn? She's like, I have a profile. That's what I do with LinkedIn. I
Mhm.
have it. I go, so you do nothing. She goes, I do nothing. Great. Do you have an email database of all your past clients and leads? No. Okay. Good. We're going to start there. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to collect all of your identities and we're going to put it in a CRM, in an email database, and we're going to send out some educational content once a week. Number two, we're going to get you a virtual assistant who's going to send out about 10 invitations per day to your ideal audience,
Mhm.
doctors, lawyers, and it just sends out an invitation. If they accept it, all you say is, hi, I'm blah. I'm a bookkeeper. Let me know if I can help. No selling, no nothing. Just, I'm here, glad to connect. So I said, those are going to be the two standard processes, low cost, easy to do. And guess what? 99% of your competition aren't doing these fundamentals.
Mhm.
Well, when we connect with them, we ask them, can we email you? So we get their permission, we get them an email database. Now, we're doing 10 invites a day. There was a time where you could send out 100 invites a day on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, but they've
Yeah.
squashed that, right? So in that year and a half, we've grown her connections from 300 to almost 10,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Oh.
Because not only are we sending out invitations proactively, but we're also posting content a couple times a day. So what do we do? What content do we publish to the email list? So her name's
To
Maya.
the
And,
email list or to the actual like
oh,
LinkedIn
both.
profile? Because the email list you said once a week, so I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're all clear here. So the email list is once a week, but then there's content on your social platforms. And again, I know this example for our audience. Right now we're leveraging LinkedIn, B2B services. If you're doing B2C, again, you can leverage this existing principle because these are principles, these are blocking and tackling, these are just fundamentals. And your social platform, might not be LinkedIn. It could be Instagram. It could be leveraging that because that's where your audience, your ideal buyer, or your ideal referral source. We'll get closer to referrals and what we mean about the referral sources are on those platforms. But right now for the B2B is synonymous with LinkedIn. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to pause, make sure that we're all aligned here, but we'll have you continue, Edwin.
absolutely. And you bring up a good point. You have to find the channel that's contextual. And when she got with me, she was like, what about Twitter? What about this? I go, let's master one.
Mhm.
Again, let's take this on a gradient. Yeah, there's a lot of things we could do, but you're doing nothing. I'd rather master. I think Bruce Lee said, he'd rather practice one move 10,000 times than know 10,000 moves that he's never practiced.
Mhm.
Let's get really good at something before we move on to something else. Let's build some core competencies. So we said LinkedIn and email. That's what we'll do for the next first year. We'll just get really good at building it and engaging it. So we committed to that process. And what do we share on LinkedIn? We've developed these positive quotes with our logo on it. You could design these on Canva. We share those 2 or 3 times a day, the right hashtags. And all we're trying to do is just promote positivity and
Mhm.
stay in front of the people that are connected with us. Again, we're just offering value. Here's some quotes about money, about business from, Grant Cardone or Gary Vaynerchuk or Henry Ford, or, we just find some good
Just being
business,
relevant,
being
to the
relevant
audience.
to what we
Yep.
do, right? And just being a source of inspiration and information. On email, I said, and this is a takeaway that anybody can do, regardless of platform. I said, I want you to write down the 50 most common questions you get asked all the time. And I want you to write them down in the exact way that they're asked.
Mhm.
So, should I form a C corporation or should I form an S corporation? That was the question she got. Are my clothes tax deductible? what's the best type of checking account to get? Whatever they were, right? Just
All the
write them.
questions, but these are relevant and in their language. And one of the things that I think is important as for our listeners too is empathy, understanding how does our customer or our ideal client that we're trying to serve, how do they actually talk and think about this? And I think you overlooked this, Edwin, but in a very strategic way. When you spread positivity, and I'll share a story too.
Yeah.
I found it that even for my own marketing, I need to be an encourager, especially
Mhm.
for my target audience, because what we do is scary. What we do is not easy. It takes up rolling your sleeves, like joining a gym and working out for the first time. Growth is not easy.
Yeah.
But if you encourage positively, and you'll see a shift in the way that we also do our own marketing, it empowers the individual who's reading it. It keeps you top of mind because now they have a positive affinity towards you. And when you're educating them, then it's like, okay, I'm just synapses are clicking. We're making sure that we understand. If I ever need like this service, my mind, if we have mind share, market share, or if you want to go super marketing guru, talk about mind control. Whenever they think about this service or this need, they'll think of you.
That's all you're trying to do. There's a great word called inculcate. And inculcate means to teach over and over and over and over until it becomes a good habit.
Mm-hmm.
So a great brand inculcates information and positivity over and over and over. It's a brand building strategy that over time, if you stay committed to the process, you will rise above. And as I told the owner of this bookkeeping company, I said, 99% of your competition is silent.
Mm-hmm.
By being consistent and consistent to an ever-growing database and connections, you'll win the day just by winning the marathon,
Mm-hmm.
just by
Exactly.
continuing to run. So we took these 50 questions and I said, now we're going to answer them. She was like, I can't, that I got so much knowledge in my head. There's no way, I don't even have time to work. How am I going to write all the answers? I said, Maya, I'm going to interview you on a video. I'm going to ask you the questions and you're going to answer to me the way you would answer a potential client. So I asked her the 50 questions. It took about 2.5 hours for her to answer verbally. I then took that video and I had it transcribed at rev.com, rev.com, $1.25 a minute. That transcription turned into 10,000 words. I then took those 10,000 words and I sent it to an editor, right? And guess what? Those became our 50 emails.
Nice. For a whole
Those
year.
became, for a whole year, I had a year's worth of content. Not only that, I had an FAQ page. And I had 50 posts that I could share on social media. 1 post a day or 2 posts a day, and then start all over again on the next 30 days. Because in the next 30 days, I've got a couple other 100 followers that didn't see it the original time. I can repurpose that content over and over and over and over. Now, all I did is I answered people's questions and I spread positivity. Doesn't that sound like things that leaders do?
Yep.
Good. If you want to be a thought leader, then lead the thought. How do we lead the thought? Answer people's questions, provide positivity, and maybe even add to that mix, talk about industry trends. You don't even be like a reporter just going, hey, US News and Report said that bookkeeping technology, you just be kind of like a news source. So that's the third thing that I would add to the mix is just keep people updated on where your industry is going. And I also find that that's very helpful. Like, I would have never found that article if you hadn't shared it. Right? So, and here's the association psychologically that happens when you share other people's great content. You took the time to share it. You obviously understand the industry because you're looking for trends, but you must know the trends since you're reporting on the trends. You see that association?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look at a brand that knows the trends of my industry He shares positivity and he answers people's questions. Isn't that somebody you want to work with?
Very true. Let's talk about, and I love the fact that you created a system around it. So I want to kind of condense the strategy for anyone listening right now. And I know we're going very detailed, but I first of all, Edwin, thank you for going very detailed. Yeah. I think it's important for us to kind of like break this down and how do I do this? And again, We'll talk about traditional businesses, if you're an online digital business, or if you're a consultant or a coach, or if you're working to build out like a service-based freelancer. It's called freelancer, digital services, and traditional businesses, door-to-door, traditional mom and pop shops. So let's talk about this. So we're leveraging email, we're leveraging social platforms. For that 50 questions, I love this. Record it. If you just do this interview with yourself, do it on Zoom, transcribe it, use Rev, the transcription service, or use Otter.ai. It transcribes it. Hire someone on Fiverr for maybe $15 to edit it for you correctly. Or if you need to spend $100, just do that. Now you have 150 emails and potentially even 100 posts that you can just use eventually. And you can post twice a week. That's content for an entire year. With your social platforms, encourage them that it's possible. And I think this is really interesting because every single business sells a transformation. And you need to identify, what transformation am I selling? You're not selling a product or a service. That's a mechanism for a transformation. So when you're doing that, just encourage that transformation is possible, because people just want to believe that it's possible so that they can execute and do it. So that's another key thing that I love that you mentioned. And the third piece, keeping up to date with your market. You can literally do this once a month. Read an industry article, write your take on it, or record a podcast on it, or just reshare it. Simple as that. Once a month, what's going on, what's happening in for example, the housing market, what's happening in your B2B services industry, what's happening with creative writing industry, for example, if you're a freelancer. So I think those are the audience building. Let's talk about the sell, because I think the biggest conversion point is asking for the sale, because people are going to say, great, this is amazing, but what does it do to my bottom line? That's the biggest hesitation that I'm hearing from individuals. But like, let's talk about how this actually generates the conversion.
Yeah, excellent. So in any email, so first of all, in my LinkedIn profile, I'm going to have what I do and how to contact me. So that positive post then clicks on my name, which goes, you could say that your LinkedIn profile is like a landing page. If you treat your profile like a landing page, then you'll start to generate leads from there going, hey, I saw your post or your video, loved it, checked out your profile, you may be the right fit. I see that happen, okay? So there's that. Number two, there's people that are already in market. So if you're sending out 10 to 15 invitations a day, and let's say you're getting 5 accepted, and like we did with Maya, hi, I'm a bookkeeper, 3 to 5% of the people that you're reaching out to are in market. Some people go, wow, it's funny that you reached out to me. I just happen to be talking about needing a bookkeeper. So if you tell 100 people what you do, somebody's going to go, I call them first responders. You know, they just respond right out like, oh, I need a bookkeeper.
Yep.
Why did you get the business? Because you were there.
You were in front. And that's 3% of the market. If we're going to dissect
this. That's 3% of the market. So
is ready to buy right now.
I'm a bookkeeper. I do bookkeeping. It's not even that you have a sexy message or a USP. It's just you showed up. So the other 97% will need the drip campaign, will need the emails because they're not in market right now. So talk to 100 people, you're going to get business.
Exactly. Right? And then the email, do you also make an offer? Like, when you're ready, here's how to apply to consult or to get the service or a quote.
Yeah. Well, plus here's the thing that we do in every email that let's say we answer the question at the bottom is, if you need a good bookkeeper, here's our phone number, fill out this form. So there's always a soft ask in every email, right? When you're ready, or if you need. Mm-hmm. So there's that, right? And we've had people kind of go, I was doubtful about working with you, but now that I've gotten 9 emails and I've read them, I really see you're building trust.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So they may be in market, but they're skeptical. And that good content and that willingness to share and educate and entertain has won them over.
I love that.
That's the key.
And I think that that kind of wraps up for the sales conversation, because then now they're in your sales process, and this podcast, I mean, the scope of this podcast is not going to dive into how to close the sale. We can do that separate in a second when I would bring you back on closing the sale. But let's talk about something that you mentioned that I thought was extremely interesting is micro and nano influencers. This report is outdated, but I believe I saw a report from, well, I did see it from Gartner L2, that the best influencer size, at least on social, is about 16 to 32,000 people in terms of audience. You don't need that million follower to have a really good influencer, because their net shareability is like 1x. You give them a product, you pay X amount of money, they'll share it once, and then their audience is used to all that, so they're not going to take action. But those who are micro influencers, their net share is about 3 to 6. 6, don't quote me on that, 3 for sure. Again, this report's probably 2 years old. But with that, let's talk about what is a micro and nano influencer. This is the first time I'm hearing nano. How do we identify them? How do we connect with them, build a relationship, and add that to our marketing mix?
Absolutely. So a nano influencer is somebody that has 1,000 to 10,000 followers on their channel. Okay, that could be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever market you're trying to tap into. Micro, the definition varies. It goes from 10,000 to 50,000 or 10,000 to 100,000. So let's just say it's between 10 to 50,000. Okay. Let's say you're building up your database, you're building up your social followers, you're sending out good content. 5% of your list is that nano and micro influencer. They're already, if you're growing your database and influencers or your connections on social,
your email list, let's just say you're growing your email lists, by default, 5% of those have an audience, let's say, for example, of 10,000 each, 50,000 people that you can reach.
Yeah. So if your email database is 1,000, we could safely say that 50 people fit within the nano or micro influencer level. Now, I know that when we say the word influencer, we're thinking Instagram model, millions of followers, but that doesn't do anything for 99% of the startups and businesses that I work with. That's just, it's not a factor. Even if they had that model talking about them, it wouldn't move the needle. Whereas a nano or micro influencer that lives in town that could refer 5 or 6 people, mention me to 5 or 10,000 people, that would move my needle.
Yep.
So I'll give you an example. So I do a lot of podcasts. I send out my invitations to gentlemen like you, ladies and gentlemen, and I get on podcasts. And I met this one guy who had about 1,000 followers, but ardent, like hardcore, like they were consuming his content, his coaching, like they just thought he was the best thing since sliced bread, right? Nano influencer, you're like, he's only got 1,000 followers. Yeah, but highly engaged.
Yep.
Right? A really good podcaster too, like all about real estate investing and flipping apartments and, like super niche real estate investing.
Very long tail, very engaged. Okay.
Very long tail, very niche, right? So I do his stuff. I do a podcast with him, and I'm just getting tons of shares and downloads because he's got a highly engaged list. Now, we develop a really good relationship, and when things start opening up, he's going to have me fly out to Boston, Massachusetts, and actually do a live presentation, and he gets an average of 300 to 400 people at his events.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So now, does that move my needle? Absolutely. Instagram model with 3 million followers doesn't move my needle in any way for my business, because I can now go in and these real estate professionals are going to want, hey, Edwin, how do I leverage LinkedIn? What email should I send? Like that, I can help them.
How do we do that?
How do we do that, right? So now let's take a local business like a realtor or a mortgage broker or a dentist. I worked with a dental firm and I said, I'm going to tell you how to identify your micro and and your nano influencers once they wrap their head around it. And they're like, wow, so you mean 5% of the patients walking in have got a big audience? I go, yeah. They're already building it. You don't know it. And because you don't know it, because referral marketing is a blind spot to you.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like you can't see what you don't see.
Yeah, we don't know it too. And so I like to ask the logical questions. And I know that if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably going to have these 3 questions. 1, how do I identify them? 2, how do I get the conversation going? 3, do I have to give them funding? Is this like an affiliate deal? Like you scratch my back, I scratch your back, we pay, like, how does that work? Because I know those are the top 3 common questions that I see and I hear from the market.
So let me attack those 3 questions. Number 1, there's 4 different types of referrals. In my book, Referrology, I educate you on what those 4 types of referrals are, and each of them have a slightly different strategy. So there isn't a referral source. I've identified and classified that there's actually 4. Like I'll give you an example. A soft referral is someone leaves a review on Google My Business or Yelp. I'm not getting business directly from it, but if I get enough Yelp reviews, you and I know that that will rank higher in search and I'll start to get business from it, because I call that a soft referral. Then you can go all the way to a corporate level referral where you're a co-branding relationship. You have actually a contract. You send me my real estate deals, I send you my mortgages. You know what I mean?
So it's like that relationship going.
Yeah, Coca-Cola, the official drink of the NFL. That's a co-branding relationship that they're referring. And then there's 2 other referrals that I talk about. So if you download my book for free or buy it on Amazon for $1.99, if you don't want to give me your email, because I will retarget you and I will follow up on you if you give me your email.
We'll put that link. We'll put that link in the show notes to get the referrology. Yeah. So they're the last 2.
Yeah. So I'll give you a common example with the dental office. This is how you identify them. So a dental office will typically have 15 to 20 people walking through in a day, right? So we know 1 out of 20, maybe 2 out of 20, if you're in a very sophisticated city like Hollywood or New York, are going to have nano or micro influencers. So as those 20 people are coming through, we simply ask them, how was your service today? How did it go? Did you like your teeth cleaning? Are you happy with the service? So somebody's going to go, man, I love this place. You guys are so kind. The doctor worked with me. I'm happy about my service. You go, great. Would you be willing to say that online? The nano and micro influencer will identify themselves going, oh my God, I've got all these followers on Instagram. Oh my God, I'm really big on Facebook. Oh my God, I love Twitter. Somebody is going to, if you just ask them,
self-identify, right?
They will self-identify. If you go, would you be willing to say that online? I just say online. They'll tell you where they're busy. So then they go, oh my God, I'm so into Instagram. Great. Selfie, leave success story with the dentist, tag our practice, and let them do the work. So now, if that practice finds 1 influencer per day, nano or micro, and is open 20 days,
and they
would be engaging 480 influencers per year. Do you think that word of mouth is going to have a positive effect on the growth of the practice?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm trying to think, because just for the audience as well, is I know that a lot of the strategies are like do an ad, post an ad, and get some leads today and effectively. But I think this is a longer term strategy that can be applied on top of everything that you're doing, because this is a more powerful strategy because of the level of engagement of the people and the trust that you're building. And I think that's the core essence of this, is more trust based as opposed to commodity based, which I know the commodity based does work well. Like if you're doing an ad, you're getting people to convert on a lander and getting leads that way. Yeah, we can make that work. It's going to take time and money, but this is a long-term approach where it's low investment upfront, but trust for the high end. And I think one of the big paradigm shifts too is, as you're listening to this, I want you to imagine that the journey that you're embarking, even if you already embarked on it and you're at the peak of your career, or you want to become better in your career, because we can always become better. I want you to imagine the next 15 years, what are you going to be doing consistently to keep growing? It's not a 3-year thing. It's not a 3-month thing. This is like a 10 to 15 year
Yep.
strategy. And that's when you'll start even continuing to grow.
Mm-hmm. And Raul, you know what's better than a source of income? Multiple sources of income. So you're running the ads, run the ads and do your referral marketing and do have 5 different ways that people can find you. Don't have a way. Don't hobby horse and go, well, we run Facebook ads and it works really well. Yeah, but within one day, what happens when Facebook changes their algorithm, or the ad costs go out the roof, or I don't know, I can't control Facebook. Only Facebook can do that. What I can control is I can control my emails. I can control engaging with people. Not only that, referral marketing is relatively inexpensive. The conversion rate is higher. They stay around longer. Everything about it, if you just Google the power of referrals and you look at all the KPIs and research and statistics, like referrals are the ultimate client.
Very true.
In every way.
And a lot of people get pigeonholed saying that I don't want to depend just on referrals because they're not predictable. And that's one of the key things too is, so once we've talked about the 3 big questions: identifying, engaging that conversation, asking, and of course, within those different parameters, you identified 4 different parameters. Yep. There's different asks you might promote at their events. They might be able to, have you in one of their info products, whatever that exchange might be, create the relationship. But then the logical question at the end will come, well, how can I make referrals consistent and have that as a reliable channel for my business? I think that's kind of where the biggest hookup is in referral marketing.
Yeah. So look, the consistency starts with you. If you're not consistent, how is it going to be consistent?
Absolutely.
So, man in the mirror. I can't be, I can't count on referrals. They're not consistent. Okay. Well, how consistent are you on engaging people through online? How consistent are you engaging with influencers? How consistent are you reaching out to people and posting content? Oh, guess what? I just found the source point of your lack of consistent results. It's your lack of consistent work.
Mm-hmm. And how do we create you mentioned one of the systems earlier, record 2.5 hours, break that into 50 batch pieces of content. And then from there, if I don't want to say this because I know this is important, but if one day I don't feel like writing, well, I have 50 pieces of content that I don't have to write, or I don't have to publish. But I think once we get over the hesitancy, if I don't feel like it, which we'll always not feel like it, but how do you create the systems around consistency to even work when we're on vacation?
Get an assistant, outsource hire people to do it for you. Start to use automation tools to repurpose your content, right? So I have a virtual assistant. I don't reach out to every podcaster. She wakes up in the morning and she calls guys like you and sends out my sheets, and she books my calendar. I have another one at 2:00. I have 3 podcasts scheduled for next week. I don't do that work.
It's creating consistency around you and identifying, knowing that you are let's put it as a liability, a safe liability, that you're not always going to be dependable, in the fact that you need to create these like mini machines around you, or systems and people and staff who are going to do it better than you, so that you can focus on the highest leverage activity.
That's right. So my thing is, let's get organized and let's put in systems. Now, did I schedule my podcasts in the beginning when I started out? I scheduled every single one of them. But it got to the point of like, okay, if I'm going to scale this and keep it consistent, I need to hire an assistant, write up my hat, give her my system, and go, it's like Ray Kroc never made a hamburger.
For McDonald's,
as a profession, right? Yeah, he built machines which made hamburgers. That's why Ray Kroc became a billionaire with McDonald's. Mm-hmm. The system was the solution. not Ray
Absolutely.
Kroc. Well, if I just work harder and charge more money, maybe I'll finally be a billionaire. No, that ain't the path, honey bunny. The path is creating systems and then hiring people to replicate your success in multiple locations.
Makes a lot of sense in identifying with these core principles that you shared, and as well with the four types of referrals and the strategies to approach them.
That's
Well,
right.
I think the best thing here, I'll link your book download. I think you sent it to me here in the show
Yeah.
notes. But for people to learn a little bit more about you, your upcoming work, the books that you have written, what's the best place for people to go to, Edwin?
So a couple of my books, they can just go to Amazon or Kindle and type in Edwin Dearborn. They're going to find my books. Or go to my website, brandedshareables.com. That's brandedshareables.com. And you're not only going to see the marketing products that we have, but I got a boatload of free stuff. I mean, you can download, I've got 5, 6, 7 pieces of content, PDFs, posters, my principles, my book, bunch of free stuff. So if you're not ready to engage with me, just download all that, read it. I put it there on purpose, which aligns with one of my principles, which is to just offer value without needing you to pay me. And at some point you read this and you have an aha moment and you see that there's a way we could work together. Of course, I'd love to work with you, but I'm not going to sit there and try to sell you over and over and over. I'm going to let you do your own due diligence. Hopefully my content is good enough to persuade you to want to work with me.
I think that's key too. Like as we were talking, I looked up the core principles as well as the book, but I'll link that in the show notes. And Edwin, I appreciate you adding value today on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thank you for having me. Love it.